Jonathan was alone in the observatory, gazing through the telescope into the deep cosmos, recording data that might once again only show distant stars and galaxies behaving as expected. His colleague, Michael, burst into the room, excitement lighting up his face. "Jonathan, the readings from the quantum scanner are off the charts today. You need to see this." Together, they pored over the data streaming onto the computer screens, unusual patterns that hinted at dimensional rifts, something Jonathan had theorized but never truly expected to witness. "This could be it, Michael. An actual breach in dimensional fabric. It's what I've been hoping to find." Michael adjusted his glasses, squinting at the figures. "It's almost as if something is stabilizing on the other side. Could we be looking at an emergent dimension? Or something coming through?" Jonathan muttered, half to himself. They recalibrated their instruments to focus more precisely on the anomaly. The air in the room was thick with anticipation as the parameters flickered and finally stabilized, showing a clearer picture. Suddenly, a flash of light engulfed the room, and a figure appeared, as if stepping out from the screen itself. Arya stood before them, equally bewildered. Her eyes, reflecting a starry nebula, surveyed the room in cautious curiosity. "Where am I? This is not my world." Jonathan and Michael stared in astonishment. Jonathan, regaining his composure first, stepped forward. "You're in our observatory, on Earth. I'm Jonathan, and this is Michael. How did you get here?" Arya looked between the two men, her posture tense yet poised. "I am Arya, from the dimension of Viridia. A breach opened as I was conducting an experiment similar to yours, it seems. I stepped through it, intrigued by the anomaly." Michael, ever the skeptic, crossed his arms. "This is incredible. We need to understand this, Jonathan. We could learn so much from her." Jonathan nodded, but focused on Arya. "First, we need to ensure Arya can return safely. This is uncharted territory for all of us." Turning to Arya, he added, "You're not a prisoner here, Arya. We'll help you get back." Arya's expression softened. "Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate your kindness. Meanwhile, I can provide insights into my dimension's technology and science. Perhaps together, we can solve the mystery of the breach." For the next few hours, the observatory turned into a frenetic hub of interdimensional collaboration. Arya explained her world's advanced understanding of quantum physics, which seemed to align strangely well with Jonathan's theories. They shared ideas and concepts, Michael documenting everything, occasionally interjecting with probing questions that helped deepen their understanding. As the night deepened, the initial shock of the event gave way to a camaraderie forged in scientific pursuit. "We always theorized about other dimensions, but meeting someone from there, that's something else," Jonathan remarked, looking over the notes Michael had compiled. Arya smiled. "And I never imagined I'd be sharing my research with humans. My people will be astonished." Their dialogue continued, a dance of intellect and curiosity, as they ventured together into the unknown, the walls of the observatory holding not just 3 scholars, but a newfound gateway between worlds. Chapter 2. Learning Curves. The next morning, Jonathan, Michael, and Arya convened in the university's main conference room, a large, light-filled space scattered with various pieces of tech and piles of scientific journals. The atmosphere was less formal here, suited to the discussions that would inevitably blend professional curiosity with personal astonishment. Jonathan initiated the session, spreading several earth science textbooks and digital devices across the table. "Arya, I thought we'd start with some basics about our world, our sciences, cultures, and how we typically go about our day. It might help you understand the context here a bit better." Arya nodded, her eyes scanning the array of materials. "I appreciate this. In Viridia, our learning processes are quite direct, We use cognitive enhancers to assimilate knowledge rapidly. This method seems more hands. Michael chuckled as he handed her a tablet powered with an interactive map of Earth. Well, no cognitive enhancers here, unfortunately. We're old school. Lots of reading and lots of coffee. As Arya explored the map, her finger paused over various landmarks and regions, sparking questions. What are these various divisions? Countries, you call them? How do they interact with each other? Jonathan explained the concept of nations, cultures, and the political dynamics that shaped global interactions. Each question from Arya prompted a thoughtful discussion, not just about what things were, but why they were that way. Michael, who was more versed in cultural studies, wove in aspects of human behavior, economics, and the arts. Seeing her interest in cultural expressions, Jonathan played some music from different parts of the world. Arya listened intently to a symphony, then a folk song, and finally a contemporary pop track. The emotions, they're quite palpable even without understanding the words, she remarked. Yes, music is a universal language in a way, Michael replied. It transcends our differences. Is it the same in Viridia? In Viridia, our music is more about harmony and resonance frequencies that are designed to enhance well-being. It's less about expression and more therapeutic, Arya explained. The session turned to technology as Arya became the teacher, sketching diagrams of Viridian tech that harnessed quantum mechanics in ways that Earth scientists had only theorized about. Jonathan and Michael followed her explanations with avid interest, occasionally interrupting with bursts of questions or requests for clarification. This energy converter, could it work with our solar technology? Jonathan asked, pointing at a schematic Arya had drawn. Possibly, she said, examining the details Jonathan described about solar panels and energy storage. We could attempt a small-scale integration experiment. It would provide a practical test of combining our technologies. Michael set up a whiteboard, and soon it was filled with equations and sketches, a blend of Viridian and Earth physics. They debated, calculated, and theorized, each bringing their expertise to the table, their minds united by a common goal of understanding and discovery. As the day wound down, Jonathan invited Arya to join him and Michael for dinner at a local restaurant, hoping to give her a taste of human leisure activities. Over dinner, they shared personal stories, laughed over minor cultural misunderstandings, and discussed everything from food to philosophy. Walking back to the university under the starlit sky, Jonathan looked at Arya. Did today help in making our world a little more comprehensible? It did, Jonathan. Thank you. I'm amazed at the diversity and complexity here. There's so much to learn from each other, Arya replied, her gaze reflecting the night sky, a mirror to her own star-filled dimension. Together, they had not only bridged their worlds through knowledge, but had also begun to thread a tapestry of interdimensional friendship, understanding the profound impact of sharing one's culture and learning from another's. Chapter 3. Under the Stars. The exploration of cultural differences continued one clear evening when Jonathan decided to introduce Arya to an earthly pleasure, stargazing. He and Michael set up a small telescope in the university's botanical garden, a place quiet and dark enough to allow a clear view of the night sky. As they adjusted the telescope, Arya watched with curiosity. In Viridia, we use spatial scopes that can see beyond the light spectrums visible to the naked eye, she commented. Michael, looking up from the telescope, replied with a grin. Well, this old thing might not compare to Viridian tech, but it's got a certain charm, don't you think? Jonathan pointed out constellations and explained their significance in human history and culture. Many of our myths and legends are written in these stars. They've guided explorers, inspired poets, and even led to scientific breakthroughs. Arya was fascinated. And do these stories influence how you see yourselves in the universe? In many ways, yes. They remind us that we're part of something larger, that our lives are interconnected with the cosmos, Jonathan said, his voice reflective. The conversation shifted as they all took turns peering through the telescope, with Arya sharing anecdotes of Viridian celestial navigation and its role in their daily life. The exchange was not just educational but deeply philosophical, touching on beliefs, existence, and the nature of the universe. Feeling the moment's warmth, Jonathan ventured into more personal territory. Arya, how do Viridians understand or experience love? Is it similar to humans? Arya paused, considering her words. In Viridia, love is more than just an emotion. It's considered a vital energy that contributes to the health of our community. It's less about romance and more about a shared connection that ensures mutual prosperity. Michael, who had been listening intently, added, "That's quite different from here. For us, love can be very personal, deeply individual. It can be passionate, all-consuming. Yes, I've read about your concepts of love in the literature you provided," Arya said, looking at Jonathan. "There's a beauty in how uniquely each person can experience and express it." Their discussion deepened, touching on the nuances of human and Viridian relationships. Jonathan felt a closeness developing, not just in the sharing of ideas, but in the understanding that was blossoming between them. The night grew longer, the air cooler, and their conversation continued under the light of a million stars. As they packed up the telescope, Jonathan turned to Arya. "Do you think, perhaps, there could be a place for these different kinds of love to coexist? Maybe even complement each other?" Arya smiled, her gaze thoughtful as she looked up at the night sky. "I believe so. Learning about these differences is enlightening. It shows us that there are many ways to view the world, many ways to love, and perhaps in understanding them, we can find new ways to grow." Walking back to their campus offices, the trio reflected on the night's exchange. It had started as a lesson in stargazing, but had evolved into a profound exploration of cultural and personal philosophies. They realized that each night under the stars not only brought their worlds closer, but also knit their friendship more tightly, paving the way for deeper understanding and respect. Chapter 4. The First Touch. The integration of their worlds continued, and one afternoon, Jonathan decided to show Arya a cherished part of human experience: art. Together with Michael, they visited the city's renowned art museum, a place filled with works from across centuries and civilizations. As they wandered through the galleries, Jonathan pointed out various art pieces, explaining their historical and cultural significance. Arya was particularly drawn to the expressions of emotion in the paintings, sculptures, and installations. In Viridia, art is more functional, used mainly to enhance environmental or mental well-being. These pieces, however, they tell stories, don't they? "Yes, they're snapshots of the human condition," Michael added, leading them towards a collection of modern abstract art. Each era has its own way of expressing what's important to them, their hopes, fears, and dreams. The discussion on art and expression opened a deeper dialogue about feelings and touch, a subject that Arya was curious about given its frequency in human art. Jonathan, taking a more personal approach, shared, touch can convey comfort, love, or even pain. It's fundamental to human connection. Arya's gaze met Jonathan's, a silent question lingering in her eyes. Sensing her curiosity, Jonathan offered, "Would you like to experience it?" A simple human touch. With her nod, Jonathan reached out and gently took her hand. The contact was light, but the effect was profound. Arya closed her eyes, absorbing the warmth and the texture of the moment. "It's vibrant," she whispered. "I can feel a sort of energy, an exchange. It's one of the ways we connect, share comfort, and express care," Jonathan explained, his voice low, aware of the significance of this exchange. Michael observed quietly, respecting the moment between his friends. He added, It's interesting to see how universal some gestures can be, yet how unique they are in what they convey in different cultures. Encouraged by the gentle introduction, Arya became more inquisitive. In Viridia, touch is rare, used only in healing. This kind of touch, it's different. There's an emotion behind it, isn't there? Yes, Jonathan replied. It can convey more than words sometimes. It's a language of its own. The trio continued through the museum, discussing each piece of art with a new depth, considering not just its visual appeal but the tactile emotions it might represent or evoke. The experience enriched their understanding of each other's worlds, pulling them closer not just intellectually but emotionally. As the day ended and they stepped out of the museum, the city lights began to flicker on. Arya looked at the lights, then at Jonathan. Today was enlightening. I feel I understand humanity a bit more through its art and this touch. Jonathan smiled, feeling a connection that was both new and incredibly ancient, as if it was something that transcended dimensions. I'm glad, Arya. There's much more to share, and I'm looking forward to exploring our worlds together. Walking back through the bustling city, they all felt a sense of accomplishment. Not only had they bridged gaps in knowledge and culture, but they had also touched the intangible, emotion, connection, and understanding. This day had changed the texture of their friendship, weaving it with new colors and a warmth that only shared experiences can create. Chapter 5. Among the Shadows. The growing friendship and collaboration between Jonathan, Michael, and Arya began to draw attention, not all of which was positive. As their interdimensional partnership became more public, it sparked debates and even hostility among certain groups who viewed Arya's presence and the merging of technologies as a threat to human purity. One evening, while working late at the university lab, the trio found their discussion interrupted by an unexpected visitor. Dr. Harold Finch, a senior member of the board and known for his conservative views, stood at the door, his expression stern. "Jonathan, Michael, I need to speak with you both about the nature of your work with this visitor," Finch began, his tone icy as he glanced dismissively at Arya. Jonathan stepped forward, his stance protective. "Dr. Finch, Arya is here as part of a peaceful exchange of knowledge. She's helped us make significant advances in our understanding of quantum physics." Finch snorted. "And what cost will come with this knowledge? We're opening doors that were meant to stay closed. You're playing with fire, dabbling in things you don't fully understand." Michael joined in, trying to keep the peace. "Harold, the potential benefits outweigh the risks. We're talking about advancements that could help all of humanity." The discussion quickly heated, with Finch questioning not just the scientific implications but the ethical and societal impacts. Arya listened, her expression calm yet firm. "If I may speak," she finally said, "I understand your concerns, but fear often comes from the unknown. What we're doing could bridge worlds and bring about understanding where there was ignorance." Finch was unyielding. "Or it could bring about our end. I urge you to reconsider, for the sake of our world." With a curt nod, Finch left, leaving a tense silence behind him. Jonathan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "He's not the only one who feels this way. We need to be careful." Arya nodded. "In Viridia, we faced similar challenges when we first discovered dimensional travel. It's never easy to confront the unknown, but progress is built on such challenges." Michael looked between his friends. "So, what do? We can't just stop our work because it scares some people." "No, we don't stop," Jonathan affirmed. "But we proceed with transparency. We document everything, we hold public forums, and we educate people. We make sure they know we're working for the betterment of all." The next weeks were spent preparing. They organized presentations, wrote articles, and engaged in debates, both in academic circles and online, sharing their findings and the safeguards they were implementing. Arya, with her calm demeanor and depth of knowledge, became a strong advocate, addressing fears and answering questions with patience and insight. As they continued to face skepticism and sometimes outright hostility, their bond strengthened, fueled by shared challenges and a united purpose. They knew the journey ahead would be fraught with difficulties, but they were committed to navigating it together. Their efforts gradually began to turn the tide of public opinion. Curiosity began to replace fear, and the community started to see the benefits of their work. The trio understood that they were on a long path, but each step was a step towards a future where humans and Viridians could coexist and learn from each other, facing the unknown not with fear, but with an open mind. Chapter 6. The Integration. After weeks of preparation and outreach, Jonathan and Michael decided it was time to take a significant step forward, introducing Jonathan to Arya's dimension, Viridia. This visit was intended not only to deepen their scientific collaboration, but also to demonstrate to both their worlds the potential of their partnership. On the morning of the journey, the lab was abuzz with activity. Technicians and scientists from both dimensions worked together to prepare the dimensional travel device, a sleek, ring-shaped portal that hummed with energy. Arya, checking the final readings on the device, turned to Jonathan and Michael with a reassuring smile. "Everything's stable. Are you ready for this, Jonathan?" Jonathan nodded, his excitement mingled with a trace of nerves. "Ready as I'll ever be. It's not every day you get to step into a new world." Michael clapped him on the back. "Just make sure to take lots of notes. I want a full report when you get back." With a final check of their equipment, Jonathan and Arya stepped through the portal, the familiar surroundings of the lab dissolving into the vibrant, surreal landscape of Viridia. The air was tinged with a faint, luminescent glow, and the sky was a tapestry of swirling colors. Arya led Jonathan through a bustling city where architecture defied gravity and nature intertwined seamlessly with technology. "This is Corallis, one of our oldest cities," she explained as they walked. "Our society values harmony with our environment. You'll see that reflected everywhere." Jonathan was struck by the peaceful coexistence of natural beauty and technological advancement. "It's incredible, Arya. There's so much to learn here. Your integration of technology, it's so far ahead of anything we've achieved." As they toured various scientific facilities and met with Viridian scholars, Jonathan shared insights from Earth's technology and science, finding more common ground than he had anticipated. The Viridians were particularly interested in human concepts of renewable energy and environmental conservation, areas where they saw potential for meaningful exchanges. Later, they visited a cultural center where Jonathan experienced Viridian art forms, including their unique use of sound and light to create immersive experiences. "Our art is designed to be interactive, to connect directly with the senses," Arya explained as they moved through a gallery where the artworks responded to their presence, changing and evolving. The visit culminated in a public forum where Jonathan spoke about his experiences on Earth and his hopes for future collaborations. The audience, a mix of Viridians and a few humans who had traveled before, listened intently, their questions thoughtful and encouraging. After the forum, Arya and Jonathan sat overlooking a tranquil garden, reflecting on the day. "You've shown me so much, Arya. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of what's possible," Jonathan said, watching a pair of luminescent creatures flit among the flowers. Arya nodded, her expression contemplative. "And I've learned just as much from you. This exchange, it's more than just about sharing knowledge. It's about building trust, understanding each other's worlds." As the time for departure drew near, they returned to the portal. Jonathan looked back at the glowing cityscape, reluctant to leave. "I'll carry this experience with me forever, Arya. It's changed the way I see not just your world, but mine too." Back in the lab on Earth, Michael greeted them eagerly. "Well, how was it?" Tell me everything. Jonathan smiled, his mind brimming with ideas and visions for the future. It was extraordinary, Michael. There's so much we can do together. And I think we're just getting started. Their successful visit to Viridia not only deepened the bonds between their two dimensions, but also set a precedent for future exchanges and collaborations. It was a step toward a future where such journeys would be as common as traveling to another country, and where the shared knowledge could lead to advancements neither world could achieve alone. Chapter 7. Echoes of Love. Following Jonathan's successful trip to Viridia, public interest in the partnership had surged. To capitalize on this momentum, Jonathan, Arya, and Michael organized a series of interactive workshops and lectures aimed at sharing their findings and promoting interdimensional understanding. In one of the university's largest auditoriums, filled with eager attendees from various academic disciplines and the general public, Jonathan stepped up to the podium. Today, we not only share knowledge, he began, his voice clear and strong, but we also weave together the fabric of our communities through understanding and collaboration. Arya joined him, her presence a visual testament to the union of their worlds. Each visit, each conversation we share, brings us closer to a reality where our dimensions are not just neighbors, but allies in progress, she added, her tone warm and inviting. Michael, managing the presentation, projected images of Viridia's landscapes and technological marvels alongside Earth's own natural and engineered wonders. Here you see the potential of what we can achieve when we combine our strengths and learn from our differences, he explained. The session included a Q&A, where attendees voiced their curiosities and concerns. One question from a young student struck a chord. How do you see these interdimensional relationships evolving in the next few years? Jonathan smiled, considering the implications. We hope to establish a regular exchange program, not just for scientists and researchers, but for students, artists, and professionals from all fields to share their perspectives and enrich each other's worlds. Arya spoke of potential collaborative projects ranging from environmental conservation to technological innovation. Imagine combining Viridian energy techniques with Earth's solar technology to create more sustainable power solutions, she suggested, her enthusiasm infectious. The workshop ended with a visit to a small exhibit they had set up outside the auditorium, featuring artifacts and replicas from Viridia, as well as Earth's technologies that were influenced by their joint research. The tactile experience of handling the items, accompanied by explanations from Jonathan and Arya, helped solidify the real-world applications of their work. Later, in a quieter setting of the university's garden, Jonathan and Arya walked side by side, discussing the day's events. You know, I never thought I'd be part of something this groundbreaking, Jonathan admitted, his voice tinged with awe. Arya looked at him with a gentle smile. Neither did I. Back in Viridia, I was a researcher, content in my lab. Now, look at us, ambassadors of a new era. Their conversation drifted to more personal reflections. Arya, throughout this, I've not only found an incredible partner in our endeavors, but also a dear friend. It's something I cherish deeply, Jonathan confessed, his words carrying an emotional weight. And I, too, have found a friend, and perhaps something more, Arya replied softly, her hand brushing against his as they walked. The gesture was simple but filled with meaning, echoing the sentiment she expressed. As the evening drew to a close, they stood together, looking up at the stars, two figures from vastly different worlds, yet connected by a shared vision and budding feelings that transcended the physical dimensions. Back in the lab, Michael was compiling feedback from the workshop, encouraged by the overwhelmingly positive responses. We're making history here, folks, he said to the team, a broad grin on his face. The chapter of their collaboration was drawing to a close, but the story of their relationship, professional, platonic, and possibly romantic, was just beginning to unfold, promising a future where the phrase across dimensions, the human and alien who dared to love, was not just a concept, but a living reality. Chapter 8. The Harmonic Convergence. The day had arrived for the inaugural symposium dedicated to Earth-Viridia relations, held at the university where it all began. Jonathan and Arya, alongside Michael, were the key organizers, but today they felt more like hosts of a new era, greeting scholars, diplomats, and curious citizens from both dimensions. As the main hall filled, Jonathan checked the final details of the schedule, his nerves palpable. Michael noticed and clapped him on the shoulder. "Hey, we've prepared as much as we could. It's going to be great." Arya joined them, her demeanor calm and reassuring. "Jonathan, remember, today is a celebration of what we've achieved and a look forward to what we can still accomplish." The symposium opened with Jonathan's keynote address. He stood at the podium, scanning the room filled with faces both human and Viridian. "Today marks a milestone in our shared history," he began, his voice steady and clear. "We stand together, on the edge of a new frontier, one that promises untold possibilities for growth and understanding." Arya took the stage after Jonathan, her speech complementing his with insights from her experiences on Earth and the impact it had on Viridian society. "Our collaboration has taught us that the challenges we face are not bounded by our world's edges, but are shared across dimensions." Michael moderated a panel discussion featuring experts from both worlds discussing topics ranging from joint environmental initiatives to educational exchanges. The dialogue was rich with enthusiasm and punctuated by moments of profound insights, sparking lively discussions among the audience members. In the audience, a young Viridian scholar leaned over to a human counterpart. "It's amazing, isn't it? How much we can learn from each other when we open our minds." The human nodded, smiling. "Yes, it's the beginning of a beautiful partnership, I think." As the panels concluded, the symposium moved outside into a sprawling garden for a cultural exchange fair. Booths displaying Earth and Viridian crafts, foods, and interactive tech demos lined the pathways. Jonathan and Arya walked through the fair, observing the interactions with a sense of pride. "Look at this." Jonathan pointed out a booth where children, human and Viridian, were painting together, their laughter mingling in the air. "This is what it's all about, isn't it?" Arya nodded, her eyes reflecting the joy around her. "Yes, these moments. They weave a tapestry more durable than any treaty we could sign. It's about the people, the communities growing closer." As the day drew to a close, the trio stood together, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues that seemed to mirror the vibrant colors of Viridia. Michael, capturing a photo of the moment, said, "We'll need to remember this. It's not just a milestone, it's a beacon." Jonathan and Arya exchanged a glance, a silent acknowledgement of how far they'd come and the future they were building. "Across dimensions, the human and alien who dared to love," Jonathan said softly, the phrase a gentle reminder of their incredible journey. Arya squeezed his hand lightly. "And to think, this is just the beginning." The symposium ended not just as a successful academic and cultural event, but as a testament to the potential of unity in diversity. For Jonathan, Arya, and Michael, it was more than a professional achievement. It was a personal triumph that echoed the possibilities of what could be achieved when worlds, literally and figuratively, came together.